G'day, Ben from Duck Playing Chicken here with another build series. This time something a little bit different. I'm doing a buddy build with Jim Chandler, so thank you Jim for the suggestion. I think it's a good one. So what we're doing is a buddy build looking at the Mecha Colle or Mecha Collection kits from the Space Battleship Yamato universe. Now I understand Jim's doing a couple of the larger ships, whereas I'll be doing some of the fighters. And the reason I've chosen to do the fighters is because I haven't done any of those before. I've done plenty of the capital ships, but none of the sort of smaller fighter craft. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what these are like and hopefully lighting them up, at least lighting up the engines for them. I am crossing over a couple of series here. I've got a couple of kits from the 2202. So here we've got the Cosmo Falcon and the Cosmo Tiger II. But I also wanted to look at the Cosmo Zero from the 2199 series. So I am crossing over a couple of different series, but essentially the theme is these sort of fighters. So let's have a look at what is in each of the kits. Now, I've already taken them out of the bags, but essentially you get a series of very small sprues. Now the interesting thing is for the Falcon, Cosmo Falcon, you get stickers. Unfortunately not water slide decals, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I think I might try and trim as close around to them as possible and see if I can actually use them, because these symbols are reasonably important. They go onto the wings and also on the side of the fuselage. There's also a couple of other smaller ones which I'm not sure whether I'll use or not, so it'll be interesting to see how I go with those. One of these other kits actually has water slide decals, but two of them have stickers, so I'm going to see how I manage that. Now the great thing about these modern Mecha Collection kits is just the level of detail. If you've seen my videos looking at the multi-deck carriers, you'll know that the panel lines are really crisp. They pack a huge amount of detail in these very small kits. And the other thing I really like about it is you can really push it. If you want to, you can just sort of snap them together and throw a coat of paint on it and be done. But you can actually go into a high level of detail if you really want to. So I always like to push it, see if I can squeeze a couple of LEDs in these things. So there we can see. So with the Cosmo Falcon, it comes with one of these stands which has a ball joint on it, so you can actually tilt the fighter in the pose you want. I won't actually be using this because I do intend to light it, so I'll be making my own base. They do also include just a stock standard base as well, so this is just where it's sort of in a fixed pose. It's also provided with the landing gear, so you can make this model so the landing gear is retracted or the landing gear is down, so it's up to you. And it also comes with some ordnance as well. So that's the Cosmo Falcon. Looking at the Tiger II, again similar sort of deal, really high level detail in these kits. Lots of really clear, well-defined panel lines. This one again, it comes with a set of ordnance that you can load up on the fighter. I'll just check, see whether this one doesn't look like you have an option for having the landing gear down on it. So this one's a little bit different. So sprues there, and again it comes with a stand with a sort of ball joint so you can tilt it on an angle. Now what's interesting about this one is that this came from the same series as the Falcon, so this is 2202, but this one comes with water slide decals, so that's really good. And I mean, they're pretty basic. So that's the Tiger II. And then finally we have the Zero. So this is from the earlier series, the 2199, and lots of detail on this one. Again, a series of ordnance that you can load it up with. Now this one doesn't come with the ball joint stand, it just comes with the standard sort of fixed pose stand, so just keep an eye on that. I think these Mecha collection kits, you know, they have evolved substantially. If you look at the original series, they were quite basic as far as the level of detail that was included, but they have come a long way and they're just getting better and better, and I know more of them now are including water slide decals, which is fantastic. So I certainly hope Bandai keep these going. This one also has the landing gear, so you can, I believe you'll be able to set this up so that it's landing gears up or down. Yes, it looks like it. Yeah, so it looks like this one you will also be able to put the landing gear on if you wish. And with all these kits, the instructions are on the lid of the box. So just keep an eye. They are all in Japanese, but the instructions are pretty straightforward. They're not a huge number of pieces for these kits, so usually quite straightforward. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the buddy build. I'm going to be doing these 3 fighters, and I am going to try and light each one. So I'm just going to stick with the main engine lighting. The canopies, unfortunately, they're not clear parts, so I'm going to work out what I want to do there. I don't think I want to go bright green or anything like that. I might go with just a gloss black across the 3 of them for the canopies. We'll see how we go. So next move is to assemble all these, get them all together and work out how I'm going to light them. I've started work on the Falcon, and I've actually got the prototype for the lighting working. Now I haven't put all the pieces on here, they're sort of all in a, you just separate them out, but you can see it's not a huge amount of pieces in here. I've sort of just got the main fuselage working. So what I do is I'm just going to take some of these pieces off. The fantastic thing about these kits is they really reduce the sort of visible seam lines that you have to deal with. This fuselage is a combination of 2 pieces sandwiched together, and you can't even really tell that that's what's actually happened there. So just beautifully engineered. But I thought I would show you what the lighting looks like, because the Falcon has, if I can get it in focus, very narrow outlets at the back, so it's not going to be a lot of light shining through, but we'll give it a shot. I'm always up for the challenge of lighting stuff. So I've got a battery here. Okay, so that's what it's kind of going to look like. There is a bit of light bleed through in the top and also on the bottom, so I'm going to have to deal with that, and usually I'll use fabric paint to light block everything, and I'll just be using UV resin to sort of put the, stick the LEDs in place. So what I'll do is I'll try and wedge this apart, this fuselage, so you can see how I've set up the lighting. This one's not going to be as complex as what I've done in the past. Now what I'm using here, this is just a Gundam part separator, but you can use like a spudging tool for they use for repairing mobile phones. It's just about having a really, quite a sharp sort of rigid plastic edge that you can get between the parts and pry them apart. I do have a metal part separator, but I've found that in the past it can scratch or mar the surface, so you've just got to be careful. Okay, so you can see that it's a really simple sort of setup. There's basically the 2 LEDs near these holes where matching posts go in to sandwich it together. I have actually had to grind away parts of the plastic to allow the wires go through. There's actually a post and hole system about where that piece of blue tack is, that I've ground right down to nothing. Yeah, but that's essentially it. The grinding that I've had to do is probably a bit more obvious on the bottom half. So I'm sort of ground out a little bit here on each side, also this bit in here, and taking out this peg. Now this hole here, this is where the post is going to come up, so I need to feed the wires down through the pipe that I'm using for the post to pose the fighter. And just here's an example of the undercarriage. So they do give, maybe a bit hard to see because I have put these in, but there are these panels here which are actually separate pieces. So there's one on either side and there's one sort of at the front here. So these are the panels that you can actually put the landing gear in here instead, but mine will be in flight mode. This area here, you have the ordnance, which, let's see if I can get this in the right way, sort of sits in, sits in like that. So that's how I'll be posing it. Have the missile doors open. I think if I can go down this path for the other two, I'll be doing well if I can manage to just get a couple of LEDs in there. The Falcon was a pretty straightforward build, but for the Tiger II I've come across an issue. Now don't get me wrong, the engineering on this kit is second to none. I mean, it's typical sort of Bandai, but one thing that I'm kind of a bit annoyed about, and I don't know if there was any other way they could do it, you got this really odd sort of mounting system. So it's obviously because of the ordnances underneath that makes it a bit hard for them to put a mounting hole in, which means I'm going to have to figure something out. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. Now I haven't sort of put the lights in yet, but they will. It's probably a bit difficult to see, but there's actually two sort of jets out the back here, so I'll probably put an LED in each one of those. And I just really need to work out how I'm going to mount this. The obvious location is sort of right here, but I don't know how well that's going to sort of look. It'll look a bit strange having a post there, because I mean, yeah, this mounting clip sort of clips on the back and allows for the center missile. Let's see if we get that. Yeah, and it's not really that good. Once it gets painted, it's going to be pretty tight, so definitely need to come up with another way. Unfortunately, this particular kit doesn't come with an option for having the landing gear down, so it is literally just all the missiles on the bottom, and that's pretty much it. I mean, the kit's beautifully detailed, it goes together really well, but yeah, I'm going to have to come up with some sort of solution for this. I think I've worked out how I'm going to do this with the Tiger II and where I'm going to mount the post. So you can see the mark I've put there. This is the rod that I'm going to use, or the pipe, so that I can run the wires down the middle of it. But essentially it will go there, which is not ideal. It would be nicer if it was sort of more at the back, but I had a look at whether I would do it offset, you know, a different on either side of this missile, but that would look strange too. So I've decided I'm going to go up through there, which means that I will need to drill out or grind out this post and hole here. The wires will go down through the guts of it. There's a bit of grinding I'm going to have to do in there as well, which is fine because I'm going to have it all glued anyway, but I think that's probably going to be the best way to do it. So if I take this off, okay, so if we have a look at how this is going to sort of sit, so the wires will have to travel from the back here. I've got to grind out a bit of stuff in here so that the wires can actually go through, and then they'll go down the post. So I think that's the way I'm going to do it. It's not going to be ideal, but it's the only way I can sort of see that I can set up the wiring. So that's the path I'm going to go down for this one. For grinding out the sections here to allow the wires to pass through, I am going to use my trusty nail drill. So this is a battery operated device, I believe. Manicurists use to grind fingernails. I don't know very much about it, but the good thing about it is that it's a variable speed, so you can adjust the speed. Most things like Dremels, even some of the Proxon devices, they tend to go too quickly, and sometimes they can melt the plastic as opposed to sort of grinding it. So with the variable speed, this is really good. Battery operated, you can have different bits in it, different grinding bits. So I've just got a set of them here. And so what I've got to do is just grind out this sort of section here at the back of the cockpit so that wires can sort of feed through. Alright, with a bit of cleanup with a knife, just take out all those shavings. And so there we can see if the post is coming up, so here the wires will be able to feed out the back of this. What I am going to have to do is I'm going to have to glue these pieces together, which is going to make it a little bit awkward as far as being able to feed the wires sort of through the post and out this way. So I'm going to need to make sure I've got enough visibility of that, which means I'm going to do quite a bit of grinding. I'll have to glue it, drill this hole so that it fits the section of pipe, and then see how I go about getting wires through. It's going to be tricky, that's for sure, but we'll see how we go. Okay, after a lot more grinding, I think we are there. We've got a big open hole at the start of the cockpit. You can see the mark there for the pipe that's going to go up through. I reckon I'll be able to get some tweezers down to grab the wires through and pull them through, which means I should be able to glue this together, which you should probably do anyway, because there is, it's a minimal seam line that's going to be seen, but there's a little bit at the back here, and there's a little bit sort of along this side that you are going to see if you just snap the kit together. So I'm going to deal with these seams at the same time as sort of boring all that out and having the wires go through. I've also had to do some work on the rest of the body, so I've had to grind a path. I haven't done sort of where the LEDs are going to go in these jets here, but you can see where I've sort of ground out a path, and there was a big post in the middle here which I've taken out on both the top and bottom halves. And at the moment it looks pretty messy. There's a lot of a lot of debris in there, but what I normally do is I'll give it a bit of a brush out, and then just to smooth it out, it's not necessary, but I'll use some Tamiya extra thin cement and just run that along, because that'll sort of smooth it out a little bit. And that way, because if you're pulling wires through, you don't really want them to sort of get caught on any what would you say, any sort of jagged surfaces, because it just, the insulation on the wire will grip it and you won't be able to pull the wire through. So just in case I need to do any of that, I try to sort of smooth it out with some just some extra thin cement, so you can see that there. And of course all this is going to be hidden, it's not going to be seen at all, so it doesn't really matter how good it looks, it's just about whether it's functional. And of course part of that functionality is just making sure the wires don't get caught when you're sort of moving them around. So I've drilled out the holes for the exhaust, and I'm just running 2 tiny LEDs straight in the back of it. Again, it's just blue tacked in place for now, but just so you can see how I'm going to go about it. So if I light this up, you can sort of get an idea what's going on there now. There'll need to be quite a bit of light blocking need to occur, but that'll be quite impressive, I think. And of course that will sort of lead down through here. This will sandwich on top, and the wires will feed through the hole here, and I'm yet to drill a hole under the cockpit here, but that's essentially how it will work. So I think that should be fine. On to the next one. Put together the Cosmo Zero, pretty straightforward. The detail is incredibly sharp, literally. Watch out for these points. However, I'm starting to question why I decided to light these kits. I think I must have started with the easiest and moved to the hardest. So this one has a jet assembly that basically has like a cone, and then there's a whole lot of detail around the cone itself. So I'm trying to work out how I'm going to do that, because I think I need to drill it out, remove the cone separately, and maybe I've seen other people just use a bit of clear clear plastic that they stick the cone to, so that you kind of get the idea of the exhaust coming out. But the problem is I've also got this bit as well, which means I've got to start sort of feeding wires through, and I think I need to hollow that out quite a bit. So quite a bit of work on this one, even compared to the Tiger II. So anyway, we will crack on and drill this section out and see if we can separate the cone from the rest of it, and then I can grind that. And yeah, I think I'll just stick the cone to a clear bit of plastic. So that's the plan. We'll see how we go. Okay, it's a bit hard to see this way, but if I hold it up to the light, I can see that I'm getting closer and closer to sort of separating the cone, so I'm sort of just hollowing it out, because I still want some space in there to actually put a clear piece in. Okay, so you can see the cone has literally just broken out, so that's good. What I'll do is I'll sand that flat. Alright, so now what I'll be able to do is stick that onto a round piece of clear plastic. And so for this bit, I still need to grind out all that sort of detail in there. Okay, so there we have, I think it probably needs a little bit more cleanup, but essentially so at the back of this there'll be a clear piece that this sticks to, and then you'll be able to sort of shine some light through. Alright, I think I've got the lighting sorted for the Cosmo Zero. I'm starting to question my sanity as to why I'm going down this path, but anyway. So what I've done is I have the cone, and at the moment it's just blue tacked on, but it is a clear piece of plastic, and I have scribed some lines on it and just used a bit of panel line wash. So that's on the back side. So the exhaust is made up of a number of components. There's this bit here, so I can put a 3mm LED in there, no worries. I can then put the cowl or whatever it's called. Actually no, I'll put the cone in first, so this will sort of sit in there, something like that. And again, this is all just sort of pressure fit at the moment and held together with sticky tape and a whole lot of hope, but you'll get the idea once it's all glued in place. So the idea is, now if I get some light on it, is that you get that sort of impression. Which is interesting, it's actually coming out better on camera than it is in real life. But I'll take that. So yeah, you get the sort of indication of a turbine. You know, you're still getting the light. Yeah, it's probably closer to what's actually happening. It's very subtle and you have to be looking right down on it, but at least I've sort of got the path now to light this one. And of course this assembly sort of plugs on the back here, which I'm going to have to, you know, cut that nub off or drill through it in order to get the wiring through to the stand. But I think that's I'll call that a win as far as the process for lighting this one. So obviously I've got a bit more work to do to just have it feed down to this point where I'll be using the metal rod, this stuff, you know, and the wiring will go through that. So I think I know what I'm doing for the lighting for all three projects now, thankfully. Now I can get on with priming everything, painting, and yeah, we'll see how we go.